Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Punch Up Pod with Lila and Pat. Happy Wednesday. How are you, Pat?
I am good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm constantly having to consult my calendar to figure out which day it actually is, which I've only had one bout of COVID that I know about, but every time I forget that or I can't come up with a word, I immediately just start thinking of those 10 IQ points that I probably lost.
I would only put you on like 5 or 6.
Five or
Having
six?
known you through
Yeah.
it all. 5 or 6 lost.
It could be the excess alcohol, the lack of sleep, the world chaos, a million things.
It's plastic particles in your food. That's what's causing it.
How are you? You're strikeless today.
Yeah, I don't have a cat for a few days, and I love the cat, but it's kind of nice. I don't have to worry about the cat jumping up on my keyboard. I can keep the keyboard on the desk in front of me and everything.
Remain dry.
Yeah, so my landlords came through and did their yearly cat inspection and we're not supposed to have cats. So the whole complex hit them all. But I'm getting my AC fixed, so that'll be nice. I won't be sweating on camera as much.
I never noticed you sweating on camera, but when it was over 100 degrees, I felt so bad for you.
Yeah.
So we are waiting, it's never a slow news day. We are so looking forward to welcoming Intrepid journalist, independent journalist, Sam Husseini on. And I think he just popped up. So we were just saying, we are going to welcome him on in just a moment. He's getting his camera set up. So we'll give him a second. I see him getting it all together there in the studio. He is a busy man, lots of news to be chasing. And, we're so grateful that he's going to sit down with us for a few minutes. So hang tight.
Should we show a clip of him being fierce?
Yeah, let's show. This is the man you all know and love as he handles Smirkmeister Matt Miller.
You talk about the hostages. Israel has a Hannibal directive in which it has orders in place to kill at least its own soldiers, lest they fall into the hands of Palestinian groups. And there's substantial reporting that in fact, was utilized on October 7th, not just against Israeli soldiers, but against civilians. Are we not now in a situation where Israel may be using the Hannibal directive, not just on Israelis, civilians and military, but on U.S. citizens and other foreign nationals?
So I am not familiar in any way with either that supposed directive or those reports. And so
you've never heard of the Hannibal?
Certainly would not want to comment on it.
You've never heard of the Hannibal directive?
I thought you wanted to go out of the region.
Well, with that, we will welcome Mr. Sam Husseini. Welcome, sir. How are you today?
Good to be with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. I'm Lila. This is Pat. We know we don't have you for very long, so thank you. There's a lot going on in the news right now. We know you wanted to address Vote PAC, but is that how you wanted to start? Because you want to talk about the terrorist attacks on Lebanon with the pagers, or how do you want to begin?
I'd really like to just talk about Vote PAC because it's something that every one of your listeners can do.
Okay.
I feel like when I am able to get into the State Department and ask a tough question like that, I'm like really giving it my all. And I'm asking your listeners to give it their all with this idea that I have, that literally anyone can start this movement. I've come up with this idea. I think it's probably my best idea.
Good one.
But it hasn't taken off, and it should, and it's long overdue. And the idea, as outlined at votepac.org, is, we're in this jam, and we're having problem after problem and crisis after crisis and major crime and calamity after calamity because people are caught in this duopoly.
Right.
Most of, there's going to be like a few percentage of people that try to break out of the system on their own, but that's a hard thing to ask most people to do.
Right.
They're stuck choosing their lesser evil, or they've totally checked out.
Right.
And they said, this is all baloney. Politics is a scam. I'm out of here, and I'm just gonna, live my life. which, there's something to be said for that. The idea of vote pact is to get people to pair up, a would-be Trump voter and a would-be Harris voter, pair up and both vote for third parties of their choice. An enterprising third party or independent candidate could use this to achieve literal electoral victory by pairing people up. And this is something that if the first pairings are the hardest, I'm sure.
Right.
But once there are some pairings and people have an example, and then it can spread. It can spread organically, and then it could spread by, once some celebrities start doing it.
Right.
That it becomes a massive force. And this is something that people have continuously talked about, a realignment of U.S. politics, but it doesn't happen because, especially in election years, everybody is programmed to go to their lesser evil and go back into their corners, even if they were sort of drifting off of the reservation for a while. The fear and the hatred take over, and there's a way out of the fear and the hatred. And there have been projects that I've done, like the invoking the Genocide Convention. That was kind of Francis Boyle's idea. Really.
Could you explain to us what you're saying when you say invoking the genocide?
Like South Africa eventually invoked the Genocide Convention at the International Court of Justice against Israel. That was basically the brainchild of Francis Boyle, law professor at the University of Illinois, fairly radical, but very stringently legal law professor. Yeah. He basically came up with the idea, and I basically pounded the pavement for months and months and months.
I didn't realize you had been such a big part of it. That's amazing. Yes.
Oh, yeah. And eventually South Africa did it. Eventually, I still don't know all the roots, but I know Craig Murray wrote about it because I pushed him on it, and then his writings landed in South Africa, and that apparently is part of what triggered it. So I feel like I was sort of
instrumental.
I was sort of Neo to Francis Boyle's Morpheus.
I love it.
All right. Well, here I'm Morpheus, but I have not been able to make this take off. But I think it's my best idea, and because it can implode the duopoly, so it transforms the entire political landscape if it takes off.
Right. So there needs to be like a registry that people sign up for, and then a way to issue receipts for your vote. Because wouldn't it be horrible if, everybody who's voting Jill Stein is paired up with somebody who's voting for the Libertarian, and then they actually vote for Trump, and then the Jill Stein voters get blamed more, right? So yeah.
You're right. Trust is a real issue here. I've generally advocated for people to try to do this with somebody in their life. Somebody, a relative, perhaps somebody that but you avoid talking politics with.
Right.
Because, you disagree.
Yeah. For me, they're all Kamala Harris voters.
I understand that. If somebody is committed, that you're already not going to vote for either Trump or Harris, this doesn't directly apply to you, but you can be the catalyst for all of these other people, particularly people who are coming to you, if they're trying to talk you out, into your senses to say, then you flip the script on them and say, you don't think that I should vote for Jill Stein because you're afraid that helps Trump. But you agree that Jill Stein is probably better on the issues, right?
Right.
And if they say yes, which they probably will, then you say, okay, so the only reason you're voting for Harris is because you don't want Trump, right?
Right.
Well, then you challenge them, and maybe you try to pair them up with somebody who's the opposite of that.
It's a great idea.
Trump as their lesser evil. And ideally, it's somebody that you have a personal relationship with, so that, trust isn't much of an issue.
Right.
There is a webpage called breaktheduopoly.com.
Okay, right.
Which is pairing people up.
Okay.
And I don't run that, but I've talked to the guy who does, and he seems like a sincere guy. And so I would point people to that if they need to to go to that. But this is central, and it's something that anyone and everyone can do, and it could spark a real
Absolutely.
Complete uprising, you know, and as
well, you're giving people.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, you're giving people the first chance to vote for somebody instead of voting against somebody. For a lot of people, they're stuck in having to vote against the bad guy on the other side. And so when you cancel them out, hey, now who do you pick? Who would you really pick for president is what you're saying. And let's cast that vote, make that happen.
Exactly. Because people have become alienated from themselves, from their own opinions.
Yes.
They are not true to themselves. And the political forces push that on them. One of the most recent pieces I wrote at votepack.org is even about these so-called public opinion polls. They're not public opinion polls. They don't ask people, who do you want to be president?
Right.
They put them in the same box. They say, if the election were held today, which of the following would you vote for? And half the time they don't even list anybody but Harris or Trump. But even when they do, they're still putting them in that box.
Right.
And I put forward, wording that would really get at getting people's beliefs. I mean, the best wording that I can come with to really get what people want is to say there's a four-way tie between Harris, Trump, Jill Stein of the Green Party.
So their vote matters for the first time.
You are the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Who do you vote for? That empowers the voter. And that's what the punditocracy and the big pollsters and the big media don't want.
They absolutely don't. Everything is the horse race. And it's funny, they were so kind to Kamala at the beginning. And then I've seen like corporate media are now sort of starting to call her out on things. And I think Pat had mentioned this about a month ago, but like they want that horse race. So now they're going to start calling her out on her flip-flopping or not answering questions or her vapid responses. No, you're absolutely right on that. And it alleviates the guilt also because Democrats have done a really good job. And I mean, we can't stand Trump here, but of making him like the ultimate boogeyman. And that onus on people feels really heavy. And this would take that off.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the mainstream media and the establishment follow a script that I think is insidious and ultimately designed to undermine democracy. I'm quite convinced that they didn't call Biden on his age thing so that there wouldn't be primaries in the Democratic.
100%. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. And I wrote a couple of pieces on that, in real time as it was happening.
Right.
And if you look at the timeline, this is the first year that they ever had a debate before the conventions. They never do that. They only did that to get rid of Biden, and I think he was probably a willing accomplice on this. And then they had a wide time between the two conventions. That's never happened before either. So the timeline sort of tells you what their intentions were from the get-go.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So you said you have been in touch with people in third parties, like campaign directors, or how, and are you getting or is it mostly just the swing states where people would focus, since that seems to be where it all comes down to? Or
I mean, first off, this operates totally independently of swing state and not swing state. It does work best if the two people doing this are in the same state.
Right. Okay.
Which they would be in most cases if it's people who know and trust each other.
Right.
And ultimately, the point of this is not in any way to minimize the damage of the third party. It is to literally accelerate the backing for independent candidates so that you get a reflection of what people really believe. And ultimately, it would hopefully completely undermine the notion of swing state and safe state. That is, as more and more people, plan on voting for independent or third party candidates.
Right.
What defines a swing state and a safe state, even by establishment parameters, metrics would be altered.
Yeah, and it neutralizes the thing of a vote for third party is a vote for Trump, right? That weird math that comes up, because then we take that off the table entirely, right?
Right. It totally takes that off the table because it pairs people up so that they're siphoning off votes from both of the establishments.
Yeah,
right.
I think what's important is that in the scenario where the third party candidate doesn't win, still you've basically just lowered the percentage equally on both sides, which elevates the third parties to be more likely to hit 5%. For example, to receive state funding.
Federal funding, yeah.
It does do that, but that's sort of a floor as to what could be accomplished if this starts to take off. The maximum of what could be accomplished is that once you shatter the illusion of inevitability, it becomes like a stock bubble, being burst. The illusion of the power and the hold that the establishment has on people, which is the fear of the other side, starts collapsing, and that they realize that they do have someplace else to go, because that's the attitude of the DNC and the RNC. Where else are you going to go? Where else are you going to go? So now this gives,
and it would be a tipping point where then you get debate access. For example, you get on the debate stage and you see how rapidly you could escalate this into something mainstream.
That could happen, although the ANC and the RNC, for whatever reason, have conspired effectively against the Commission on Presidential Debates this year, and so they will likely scuttle any debate possibilities if a third party candidate has a shot.
The other aspect, though, that you said that I think is also so important is people have removed themselves from their actual convictions and their ideology because they're so concerned about voting against the person they hate most and just voting for their team blue or team red. And this would remind them again why you should vote in the first place. That it could actually reflect your policy hopes and dreams,
Okay. Are you still seeing me? I'm having tech issues on my side.
Yeah. Oh, great. Yeah. No, yes.
Yeah.
We see you.
Absolutely. It gets people in touch with their convictions. And it also, it sort of replicates instant runoff voting, but it's almost better than instant runoff voting, where people would rank their choices 1, 2, 3, 4. It's almost better than that because it compels people to work with someone on the other side. And that's part of the goal of the establishment, is to isolate people and to make them hate the other side. And, one side glued to MSNBC and the other side glued to Fox, and just be hating on the other side instead of saying, hold on, we actually agree on these economic policies, and we disagree on these other issues. And we're not going to, be dishonest and say we don't, that we don't disagree on some stuff. We're going to be true to ourselves, but we'll still be able to cooperate, because the establishment does that all the time. They're constantly colluding with each other. Constantly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So to answer your prior question, I have been in touch with some of the candidates, and I've been at this for a while, and I see the same reaction from campaigns over and over again. A light bulb will go off, they'll get it, and there'll be no follow through, because they're so tied up with or I don't know why exactly, but they're tied up with getting ballot access, or getting a campaign. You're in the eye of the storm, and they don't necessarily get it. So it really is up to the people. This can be a real groundswell if enough people pick up on this. I'd love to know if people are picking up on this. If they start doing pairings and stuff like that, I want to feature that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's wonderful. Well, we will certainly spread the word on that. Votepact.org is the website. Yeah.
I just have to ask you before you leave, how do you still have press credentials? How are they with all the hard hitting you do? I'm amazed.
Yeah. I still have press credentials, but they don't call on me.
I noticed that. Yeah.
At the State Department, they will literally, I'll have my hand up and they'll go reporter, skip over Sam, reporter. And when other reporters holler follow up on a question, they get respected, and they don't respect that from me. So it's a game of how much I'm going to be pushing that envelope. But I actually haven't gone for the last couple of weeks. I'm hoping.
What about the solidarity with the other reporters in the room there? I'm surprised that nobody ever. No.
Yeah, there's a very much a minimum of that, to put it politely. And at times they have their go-to people who they know will cut me off. So even on those occasions where they do call on me, they will immediately. Some reporters, they'll take like 6 follow-ups from. They will have somebody at the ready who they can immediately pivot to cut me off. It sort of happened in that clip that you showed. But
the student protest thing also, I saw that happen like one after another. I think you even put out a video highlighting that they just kept calling on people who were talking about the violence from the student protests and, like just doing the party line there. It's really appalling that those are the Fourth Estate member, that they're in the same group that you are in. It seems unfair that they get to consider themselves journalists.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it so much.
Great. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care. So that's such a great idea and different from ones that I had seen before, where it felt as though it wasn't necessarily that you're pairing up with somebody who was going to do a different third party vote. It was, I don't know, this feels cleaner. It's just, making it happen, getting all those connections together.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's doable for one, because it's not for the people that are worried about it, their vote causing Trump to win.
Yeah.
Realistically, I mean, it could take off and be this big boom and changes everything. But even if it isn't, if you get enough people in it, it brings all the third party candidates get elevated by it, which gets them closer to 5%, which gets them more funding, which grows those parties regardless.
Yeah. And
it puts in the mind of these people the need for third parties.
Absolutely. It's low concept, high return. Like it doesn't feel like it would be that difficult to do once that structure were in place. Yeah, that's great. Well, we are so grateful to him. We were both champing at the bit to ask him a lot of questions about what's happening globally and with Israel and Lebanon, so we could get his expertise and insight, but we'll have to just make do with our own tonight.
We'll get him back here soon.
Yeah, we'll get him back.
When he has time.
Busy, of course. So thank you to Sam Husseini, votepact.org. Let's, what do you think? Do our cheers, start it off, thank our good members. Do you want to hit the wheel?
Thank everybody.
Good. Let's thank everybody. Cheers to all you wonderful people. We are so grateful. Look at us. Look at me waiting till 5:23 to take my glass of wine out. Cheers to all of you guys. Thank you. We appreciate it. Cheers for a sip of wine. And along the line of voting your conscience, we the video that we pulled for today for our little cheers section has a slightly different way of going about it than Mr. Husseini, but powerful in a different way. So here's this young man's take.
So the thing is, Jill Stein could win. If people stopped uplifting their oppressor and broke out of the two-party system, Jill Stein could win. We are the trailblazers in this scenario. Like, y'all do understand that, right? We are the ones that are breaking the status quo. Those who remain in the two-party system are the ones that are upholding the status quo. You guys are the ordinary citizens that we read about in history books that stand in the way of progress. More Americans need to be honest that they don't want freedom. They want comfort and privilege. And that's just what it is. But I am honored that I'm among the few that are the trailblazers, that are the ones that are pushing social progress forward and making these sacrifices and facing those fears.
Hear, hear. Cheers.
Hear, hear. Because, for right now, I love Sam's idea. I don't think it will happen fast enough for this. And while I will tell people about it for sure, I also really feel like if anybody out there thinks that they are voting lesser evil by doing the same thing we've been doing for 50 years, which has gotten us a genocide, more cops, worse climate, I mean, it's not working. Harm reduction.
And, I'm just so sick of hearing it's my white privilege that I'm not supporting the genocide. I mean, they don't put it in those terms, but
they kind of do. Yeah, they do.
Well,
they really do.
I mean, I don't know how it's white privilege to care more about all the brown people our country is killing than to not. So
just the same way that what's her name, Angela Rye, tried to call Jill Stein out, who's saying she wants reparations and an end to the genocide, and saying you ran against the first Black person, like they're grasping at straws, but it is the same old playbook over and over and over. So,
Yeah. And, I get it if you're immediately affected by a policy here, but you have to, if you're looking at humanity, you're looking globally. You're not just looking locally. So ultimately, what's best for the world at large?
Yeah.
Supporting genocide or not supporting genocide, and the precedent that it sets, and what it means to be American after that.
Yeah.
After we all co-sign genocide,
and to not think that even if you're so selfish that you only want to think domestically, don't be so equally ignorant to your selfishness to not know that everything we do abroad comes back to us. So,
And if you think you need the Democratic heroes around, you need the Democratic Party to exist, well, you can't have them supporting genocide and having a future. They won't have a future. That's what's going to happen to your Democratic Party that's supposed to save you when 3 years from now, they're the ones that own what happened during the genocide.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, just like people who say, that they support Israel fully, what Biden did by not picking up the phone and ending this on the 8th of October is going to lead to, I think, the complete destruction of Israel as it stands, which will be a good thing if it changes. But, it's the same sort of idea. Like your blind willingness to follow this is actually going to lead to its demise. So, all right. Is it wheel time?
I think we should spin the wheel.
I think we do too, Pat.
Great.
Let's do it.
Concept.
You ready?
Yeah, baby.
All right. That's what I'm gonna do.
Let's start it off with some dumb animals here.
Let's do it.
Sorry to panda lovers, but they're not very smart.
I love pandas. That went over very well there. Kung Fu Panda and the sequels. I love them.
Yeah. They are just dumb and happy. And who doesn't want to be dumb and happy? I think we all just envy that when we see it.
Yeah, sometimes that's all we got. Audria, thank you so much. And yes, massive Boeing strike.
Let's go.
Yeah, very exciting. Solidarity always. I wish it were as infectious as COVID, but we'll, take what we can get, and it's pretty exciting. Thank you. Thank you for your super chat.
Thank you. Should I roll some show footage and get this thing going?
Let's do it. Let's get this thing on. All right, what do we got? Because we had a scramble of a day. We need to go through our order. We had Mr. Husseini on. We are now going to pivot into Israel, which, holy Jesus, honestly, this is all so incredibly, I mean, first of all, disgusting. If this pager attack on Lebanon had been committed against anybody in the West or against Israel, all they would talk about
terrorism. You hear the word terrorism
because
24/7.
This was a terrorist attack. Children, doctors, innocent civilians. They even had the pagers go off so people would take them out of their pocket, hold them,
put them in their face.
So people are blind. I think the Iranian ambassador to Lebanon, they say, has lost his eyesight. But I mean, pretty much everybody who was affected has had to have some sort of amputation.
Yeah, I don't know the exact totals, but I know there were 8, I believe, in the first batch of pagers, but then there was a second wave today that was other devices that killed, I think, 10 people.
Yeah, I think
and you've got hundreds injured by this, of course.
Of course. So that was the first one. And then I think, was this the second one? Update. This was today. 14 killed, 450 injured in Wednesday's attacks. Today, that was earlier today. So that's in the second attack. And in the first attack, 12 people killed and nearly 3,000 injured, 200 critically. So 2 different attacks on pagers, which Hezbollah had already shifted to pagers so that they were, more low tech, not as easily
hacked.
Hacked or followed because of GPS stuff. And it turns out that these devices, explosive devices, it wasn't even right. At first they thought maybe it was like a heating situation, but it wasn't. It was a remote detonation. They're saying
Israel
now,
admitted it. They owned it. So they are behind this known terrorist act that is in violation of
the Geneva Convention, every international law of war. It is so appalling. And also we all have, that's everybody. If, we see how they're reacting to protesters on campuses and they're calling them Hamas and terrorists. So if everybody's a terrorist, right? Hezbollah is also the political leadership in Lebanon. Like, everybody's attached, just the way they were to Hamas in Gaza. They're attached to Hezbollah. Do you work at a hospital? Do you collect trash? Do you work in any sort of municipal function? You're part, then that's how they're going to tie everybody to Hezbollah and to being a terrorist.
Part of what makes this terrorism in the traditional sense of the word is that the citizens are terrorized now of all their electronics. Like, what is next? If Israel can openly plant bombs in equipment brought into certain countries, that makes that country unsafe. That makes all those electronics unsafe. So one of the companies is suing Israel for billions of dollars because they're going to be no one's going to buy their products.
Yeah,
because they were the ones that packaged or built some of the electronics. So, but none of that matters. And the U.S. is sitting here condoning this situation.
Oh, it's so disgusting. I mean, some of the headlines and even I did pull this clip, but Medea Benjamin is talking to a sitting member of Congress, asking her about her response to this terror attack. And this member of Congress looks at Medea Benjamin and says, "Do you have your pager on you?" Right?
Yeah, I actually pulled that clip too and uploaded it, and we didn't have space. But here, I have it up here. We'll show it just because it's so disgusting.
It's so disgusting, and I'm going to take off a couple right now. Give us.
You don't have to, but it just uploaded, so we're good. It just StreamYard processing slow. It's
all slow, but the headlines.
It was Senator Hageman. I don't know. She's Republican, but it doesn't matter. Both parties could have said this, right?
100%.
Which we're still waiting for.
Well, okay. So the other thing was
kill the 8-year-old.
Sorry.
Kill the 8-year-old and 11-year-old. Huh? They self-defense what Israel did with the pagers and now the walkie-talkies. kill the 8-year-old and 11-year-old. Huh?
She asked if we have our pagers on you. Why do you want them to explode? Is that what you're insinuating?
Yeah, are you threatening us? They killed an 8-year-old and 11-year-old yesterday. I don't think murder and death is a laughing matter, ma'am. Yeah. You find it amusing though, huh? Joking about my device is exploding and injuring or killing me. I can tell you.
Wow.
I mean, it is so vile. The Forward, the liberal Jewish magazine, their headline was "Paging Hezbollah." Like, that's some joke. What was this? This was New York Post, which, I know they're hideous, but like 2,800 Hezbollah terrorists. No, you can't say that they're all terrorists. And anyway,
you're committing the terror. If it's not terrorism, yeah. Let another country do that to us in this country and see what we call that. What would we call that? All our elected officials, their pagers blow up.
Your pages, your computer, your cell phone. Everybody I know has an Alexa. We all have smart TVs, which is why many of the people who develop this technology don't have it themselves. I disconnected all of our smart home things, Alexa and all that bullshit. I hate all of it. But I mean, it doesn't matter. Pagers are like the lowest technological device you could probably have. Right. And, if they want to get you, they'll get you. And then they will be applauded because they'll just call you a terrorist. That's all you need to do.
But I mean, look, we are a huge target for retribution and an act of terrorism here.
Yeah.
And if you don't think this factors into our lives just because we're living this comfy life, it's coming. It's coming. The chickens are coming home to roost in the U.S. from our actions right now in the world. And we cannot say we don't deserve it as a country. No individual does, but
right. But look, you saw, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, they'd be justified. I mean, you're doing this to them. This is the same thing. The people that are oppressed that you are doing things to, when they finally do the same thing back to you, you can't cry international law on them when you got away with it.
And this thing of well, they voted for Hamas or they voted for that regime, because they call it regime. So I always try to call Biden a regime because I want to use their own horrific language. But, of course, we're all complicit. No, I didn't vote for Trump. I didn't vote for Biden, but we're a democracy. So on some level, and that was, when Osama bin Laden, his letter that went so viral on TikTok. And I think it had been published in The Guardian, and people, this new young generation found it and they realized the things he was saying, even if you don't agree with the tactic of blowing up buildings and killing innocent civilians, but everything that he said about U.S. complicity in the Middle East and the treatment of Palestinians was right. And so if you're going to make everybody in Gaza or the West Bank culpable, they're 100% everybody in the U.S. is culpable for what we do.
Exactly. It's the same playbook. They accuse other countries of what they're doing. We accuse them of terrorism. I mean, I watched the UN, the Israeli ambassador or whoever who spoke at the UN as a resolution against the resolution that passed.
Of course.
And what caught me was he's telling everybody, in the original Hamas charter. Okay, but that leaves out the part where that was 25 years later. They denounced things that were in the original charter. Yep. They called for peace, but you're still speaking to an audience, assuming they're going to believe your bullshit about because you said original. They're not going to catch the word original. They're just going to think in your charter.
Right.
They're calling for terrorism.
They'll give Kamala all the space to flip-flop because she got new information and now thinks fracking is really good for the environment. But Hamas actually changed their charter, unlike the Likud party that still says no Palestine and no two-state solution. And they did change to a two-state solution. However, after assassinating the lead negotiator, Ismail Haniyeh, they are now, Yahya Sinwar is saying, no, we are now all coming together to make sure that we end this nation of Israel. And the truth is, there are the lunatic settlers, a lot of whom, a lot of people in Israel have dual citizenship, right? So the people who call themselves liberal Zionists, they can go back to Europe, they can come to the US, people in Palestine, in Gaza, in the West Bank, in East Jerusalem, they have nowhere to go. So as Israel becomes more and more of a pariah, as more and more terror comes their way and war comes their way after what they've inflicted, and as their economy just completely shuts down, I think it's going to be a war of attrition.
I think so too. And how would we react if Chinese-made electronic devices start exploding all over the country? And there's a good likelihood something like that happens,
Oh, for sure.
It's
yeah.
So
yeah. And yeah, I mean, Saul, you're totally right. Ask the Native Americans how many peace treaties were honored. Every time you talk to somebody who's at any level of Zionist, they're like, why didn't they just accept the peace treaty? Why didn't they just accept? First of all, anytime it looked close to being accepted, either Israel would change the parameters of the peace treaty, or somebody would be assassinated, or
negotiating.
I mean, like
blow up pagers in Israel. I mean,
and by the way, when there was a ceasefire, Hezbollah stopped their rockets. So like that, we do have some evidence that they would honor it.
And as a reminder, every peace deal was broken by Israel. Israel broke every ceasefire deal.
Yep.
They've admitted they broke them. Even with their Hasbara and bullshit propaganda, they've owned up to breaking them because they've been caught. It's so obvious that they have to admit that they broke them, but they'll justify why they broke it. But they broke all the deals.
Yep. They absolutely did. Okay, this is stuff we did not get a chance to talk about with Sam, but this UN resolution, the UN General Assembly adopts a resolution demanding that Israel brings to an end without delay its unlawful presence in the occupied Palestinian territory, and to do so within a year. I mean, can you imagine? I can't even imagine an hour in Gaza, like a year. We haven't even had a year since October 7th. Anyway, but the people voting against are the same horrible people, including the US and the UK. One of the things that this resolution does is, if they are, this is the UN. This is not I think this is different, but by saying that Israel does not have a right to defend itself from the people it's colonized and over whom they dominate, right? So that's actually a huge deal. It takes away that talking point. Like, yes, if somebody comes into their space, which of course is still occupied, but you can defend yourself from an incoming attack at that moment. They don't have a right ever to cross a boundary. Their only duty is to protect the people they're colonizing, not starve them, not slaughter them, not decimate every building, school, museum, library, hospital. And so I hate that it's all moving so slowly, but these legal proceedings, the hope is that it will then give the UN General Assembly no option but to do this uniting for peace that Sam wrote about, which is, if the Security Council fails to exercise its primary responsibility for the maintenance of international peace and security, the General Assembly shall consider the matter immediately. They can use armed force when necessary to maintain or restore international peace and security. I mean, I don't know what their forces are like. And just the fact that we've gotten to this point is so devastating, but somebody's got to stop it. And everyone who tries is called a terrorist.
And somebody has to stop it. And the somebody is going to be all the Arab nations coming together against the US and Israel. which is what all the bomb makers want. The weapons manufacturers want that. All of our politicians are beholden to them at this point. Our safety be damned, because first they're going to go mostly for Israel. So that the U.S. is safe on that front somewhat. But our politicians aren't operating out of their own interest even to get reelected. They're operating out of just pure allegiance to the money.
Yeah. I mean
when they lose their office because they back something unpopular, they'll just get a job as a lobbyist for the weapons manufacturer that propped them up this whole time. So there's no electoral win that will get us out of this.
No, not with these two parties for sure. And I mean, Kamala Harris was on another, I don't even think we pulled any because we watched her whole outrageous interview that we showed on Sunday, but she did another one and again was pushed about what policy is going to be different. And from from Biden, we haven't had a ceasefire. You've talked about wanting a ceasefire. You've talked about not wanting to kill innocent civilians. What's the policy difference? And all she kept saying over and over was, first of all, we need a deal. That's what we need. Like, that's it. And he said, I have to say, and now I need to go back because I was listening to it today and I don't even know who the interviewer was, but he kept pushing her on. He's like, but what about a weapons embargo? And she talks about the one delay of the 2,000-pound bomb. And she talked about how that worked, but not like this could end.
Yeah, but when they were talking about the delay there, the pundits said at the time it would have no material effect on Israel because it already had stockpiled enough big weapons.
Yeah.
So that was just fluff. Like that's garbage.
And even then they said Biden's Hamas, remember? Yeah, I know they did say that. I mean, I know we get so much disinformation. They say that, but then I do think though that if the US stopped supplying them, stopped giving them cover at the UN with their vetoes, stopped giving them weapons, stopped giving them money. I mean, they're 100% a client state, right? So like we could, and yes, maybe they could continue doing some damage, but
no, that would
end it.
My point was, if you stop for a week, but you resume funding, I mean, it's irrelevant because they don't, that little pause is nothing. So
it's nothing,
it's like 2 weeks before the election, Kamala could come out and say, we're not going to fund Israel anymore for 2 weeks. And then she wins the election. They're back to funding it full time. And she doesn't give a fuck. They can survive that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's when they'll do the big ceasefire. Yeah. I mean, in the end, it really is. It's all just about money. It's having an outlet, colonial post in the Middle East to protect our business interests. And, this new true death toll that came out, which I think has even been, the Lancet came out 2 months ago saying that it was probably 180,000. Now 200 plus Palestinians projected to have been killed by Israeli forces since October 7th. More than 95,000 people have been injured. At least 172 journalists, 885 health workers, 296 aid workers. And then this is just so devastating. The Gaza Ministry of Health just published 649-page document with the name, age, gender, ID number of every Palestinian killed in Gaza from October 7th to August 31st. That they have info for, because obviously there are people that they have not been able to identify.
This is just the known list, and it's 14 pages of babies.
The first 14 pages are babies under 1 year old. This is a war. I mean, this is a disgusting genocide, but it is also very explicitly a genocide of babies. This was just so devastating. What's in this bag of rice? A 10-year-old is in the rice bag. His name is Ryan Ibrahim Ghazi Kualidar. And that is all. I think it's a few ounces of his own child that he was able to gather up and put in that rice bag. I just, every day. And then to see, this is in the West Bank. This isn't even where Hamas is. So all of that we know anyway is bullshit, but 5 Palestinian children are killed or injured on average every day in the West Bank since October. So this is what Biden-Harris administration is feeling, their big joyful campaign about. And he has not even reached out, by the way, to the American protester Eisner, who was there. It has been now how many weeks? Oh, whoops, that's the wrong one. Sorry. 2-3 weeks. Haven't contacted her at all. And of course, we've seen the difference in the way the State Department talks about 2 different Americans who have been slaughtered by Israel.
Yeah, and they're pretending that they don't know what international law is. This is a really short clip of the Pentagon being questioned on it.
Ethically speaking, as a military officer, is this a capability that falls within the ethical conduct of a war?
I'm not a lawyer. I'm not, again, going to do a spot analysis on something that we've seen in press reports. I just don't have any information to provide on that. So,
don't have to be a lawyer. It's against international law. It's against the Geneva Convention. Everybody knows it. But sorry, I did just want to show, because this is how our State Department talks about 2 Americans, 1 killed by Hamas, supposedly, and 1 killed by Israel.
pUsH was a young man known by his family, by his friends for his kindness, for being a gentle soul who loved traveling, who loved music. And of course, he was attending a music festival on October 7th when it was attacked by Hamas. As Secretary Blinken said this weekend, Hersh Goldberg Poland is an American hero, and we demand justice.
Do you actually condemn the actual act of killing an American citizen protesting, the aggression of, let's say, the Israeli occupation army?
Sorry.
You condemn the act of the killing itself. Do you condemn that act?
Let's just be very clear. Of course, we would condemn the death. The death of any American citizen is heartbreaking. But let's be just very precise and clear that I am not going to speculate on what transpired on Friday, as those facts and those processes are still being determined and adjudicated, and we're going to let that process play out.
Translation.
Subjunctive, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to not answer and let Israel investigate themselves, and then this question will go away, because there'll be many more killed by then, and then we'll just delay that question and delay that question, and Israel will tell us if they did anything wrong here.
Yeah. So, that's pretty much all we have in Israel. Back here at home, the laws, the new guidelines on different campuses are becoming more and more stringent. In LA, we've got police arresting people, LA City Council considering paying former IDF soldiers to patrol its streets. That actually, I think, has been rejected, but UCLA or UC campuses are banning camps and face masks used to conceal identities. At Columbia, they hired Pinkertons. I cannot, and they're walking around like at a central casting with all blue and a binder that says Pinkerton on there. I know it's really small. And I will say it's kind of been amazing these last few years. Teen Vogue, of all places, has sometimes been, one of the few, corporate media coming out with, some actual stuff. Pinkerton National Detective Agency, founded as a private police force in Chicago in 1850, quickly expanded its reach. Detectives initially focused on catching thieves and burglars, but soon became the bane of the labor movement for their work as enthusiastic, vicious strikebreakers throughout the Civil War era, and in the decades after. Pinkerton operatives left their bloody mark on strikes, protests, massacres, and gained a ruthless reputation for protecting the interests of capital by any means necessary. As one newspaper columnist put it, no man of refined sensibilities would enter the ranks as a hired Hessian of plutocracy, expecting to shoot down his brothers at the command of capital. So that is the ruling class's answer to all of this.
They're basically calling in strike busters to enforce the same thing, but now with kids and protesting. Yep. You know, it's the same mob force. It's why we're going to see 1 million cop cities. It's coming.
Which also, all this, you know, they talk about how Israel has the most advanced weapon technology in the world because they practice on Palestinians. That is the testing ground. That's their laboratory. And then they, you know, give their technology to us or their tactics to us.
Well, let me tell you, I watched this big documentary on the drone warfare coming. Yeah. And the rebel forces around Israel are going to terrorize. I mean, truly, they're making $2,000 drones that can, it takes a $300,000 missile to take down a $2,000 drone. So do the math on how that works, you know.
Yep.
Like the damage that can be done with these high-tech drones that are built super cheaply. Like Iran, for example, you know, we stopped their missile production, so they put all their money in, and Iran has 1 million of these $20,000 drones, and their $20,000 drone can pull up right next to an F-15 fighter pilot and blow it up, you know, undetected, and they're $20,000. And you think of these F-15s costing $1 billion, or not $1 billion, but mega millions, like, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars for these planes, and they're taking them out with $20,000 drones, and they have like 10,000 of them or something. I mean, they have a whole factory of these things, and they're in big trouble over there in Israel, and they're going to see, and we're getting pulled into it because of our support. It's, I don't know. I'll try to find it. I will try to find it. It's an hour-long thing, all about the weaponry being developed over there.
I mean, it's really, you know, again, like that low concept, high return was 9/11, right? Like with all of our technology, like those sorts of things, that's why terrorism is so effective, because it can happen anywhere. It breaks the social contract. I mean, even if you're actually going by whatever, you know, society is doing and you know, condoning.
It is sort of a way to push back against the bully, you know, the big bully. Yeah. You've got your little secret thing.
Yeah.
That's
yeah, I mean, it's really terrifying. They're branding, you know, we know they're branding language as terrorism. They are back to Columbia, you know, partially because it's my alma mater, but also partially because it seems to be like not the epicenter, but sort of the initial jumping off point, even though it's gone, you know, spread across the globe.
They were one of the first colleges to have the police actions against them.
Yeah. And it's in New York City and all that. But I mean, at Teachers College, at Barnard, at Columbia, they are having new guidelines on you can't present any worldview if you don't also present the opposite. Well, they don't really mean that, right? Like, do they really mean, well, P. Diddy was just arrested for this sex trafficking ring where he would rape women and keep them against their will. But on the flip side, like, no, they only mean it for Israel. Like that's the only place where where the US justifies genocide and apartheid.
Yep.
One good bit, and then I know we're going to move on, is at MIT, the MIT Coalition for, oh my God, my eyes, you guys, terrible. The MIT Coalition for Palestine shares a major victory. MIT activists end the first American-Israeli weapons manufacturer partnership at a university. The Scientists Against Genocide Everywhere, SAGE, movement at MIT continues. And I wonder if it's because, you know, maybe these are the people who are coming up with the technology. I have no idea, but good for them, because most of the other places that have gotten small victories, it's been, well, we'll have a commission, we'll talk about it, we'll vote, those sorts of things. Oh, Pat, is it just me?
Yeah, no, that was me. Sorry.
Yep.
The sad reality is that I think most of these colleges invested in weapons manufacturers because it's a great return on your money. It's a guarantee. It's like buying a federal bond almost, because look at what's happened in the world. Even if we're at a time of peace, we're going to find a reason to stockpile bombs and weaponry. So, all these schools, they did it out of their own self-interest largely, but then there's the confluence of all these Zionist interests embedded in our government, embedded in our schools. Some of these places reliant, and part of the Hasbara was, not Hasbara, but part of the Israeli plan was to capture institutions and make them beholden to the Israeli goals. And they've done that.
Yep.
And so now we're shutting down kids at colleges universally.
Yeah.
Almost. But kudos to the kids at MIT.
Kudos to them. And, it's funny. Sorry, I know I keep saying, but the LA Teachers Union started talking about, this was last term, it was probably in the fall, divesting from Israel. And I saw a lot of parents, whoa, wow, now the LA Teachers Union is going to get political. And it's so funny. It's like the default is ignoring all the politics that's happening, because those politics are all happening. Like, if you invest LA public school money in war manufacturers, that's political.
That's a political action. Right? Yeah.
But that, if you just don't talk about it, oh, forget it. And then as soon as you speak up, it's just like, in the comments, anybody who fights back against the empire, that's the political violence. All the violence the empire does is not political. All right. I know.
Oh, it is time. Let's do
Have I given everybody a lot of joy so far? Is it happy time? My joy campaign.
We need to have a brat show. All fun stuff.
Thank you.
Do we have an anniversary coming up or anything? You had yours, but
I did.
Remember that.
Ours? No, we already had ours, right? I think ours was the beginning of the summer. But what if we did an all cool
uplifting
art, or I don't know, something. I don't know.
We're gonna make it happen.
We're gonna do something. It'll be a shit show. It'll be a Sunday deep dive. Cheers.
Yes. Spin that sucker again. Let's do it.
Oh, I haven't done a shot in a really long time.
I'm not doing shots lately, but
okay.
Well,
is that in the contract? Do you get to just
I've drank so much this year, and I need to get back in the gym and in shape. So I'm just drinking beer. I'm drinking 3-way.
Oh,
which sounds kinky and all.
Yeah, it does. That sounds really.
It's a mix of 3 beers, 3 breweries came together to make it happen.
Is it a devil's threesome?
2 male brewers and 1 female.
That's what men call a devil's threesome, right?
Breakdown. It's a spit roasted beer.
Yeah, baby.
Come on.
Maybe I'll have to have a shot.
All right, I'm gonna close it and spin again while I pour my shot, because my contract did not allow me to extricate myself from this.
Yeah, baby.
You're back to your spinning. This is why I gave up shots.
I'm gonna remove this one, because holy God, I need to do a double shot. Wait, 1 second. 1 second. All right.
Yeah, baby.
No way. I don't know if I can do that. I'm sorry. I just saw that Mo said all I heard was Pat likes a 3-way inside him.
Yeah, baby.
Delicious 3-way.
Okay. No. All right. Wait. Stop. I spilled all over myself too. Okay. I spilled all over myself. I still haven't had my 4 shots.
Enough 3-way talk. Let's get to some wholesome stuff.
Is that our last one? Do I take that off?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
1 more. time.
Do it.
He did it.
Whoa.
That was really cute and necessary because I was bringing down the whole vibe. Okay. Where are we now?
I think we're on to
the left.
Left.
Listen, we are gonna push this lady left. Just you wait.
Yeah. In defense of that title, they actually go on to explain, well, they don't really make the case that it's not true.
No.
So let me back off of that.
Yeah, they trot out all these people making excuses for it. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So let's start from the beginning. Ed Markey. I'm from Massachusetts. She's from California. On climate, on abortion, on racial, LGBTQ issues, we are absolutely in agreement on her agenda. This is the guy who sponsored the Green New Deal. Was mostly his thing, and then Medicare for All. He co-sponsored like a lot of people, but like, yeah, fracking. She's pro fracking here, and if you're Ed Markey, you know that literally undoes all the good work you try to get in other areas. That alone. So this is just ridiculous.
It is so ridiculous that, first of all, the Democratic Party would proudly be pro fracking in 2024 at like concurrent with climate scientists losing their minds. Like every day we're trying to get somebody on for an episode because we haven't covered it in such a long time, and it's like such a dire existential issue along with, global pandemics and genocide. Like we're so far beyond the thing that that scientists said was like the limit.
And the reason is that you've got no party. I mean, none of the two parties are even pretending it's real anymore. You got the party that's supposed to represent us saying, I'm pro fracking now. So they're not.
I believe in climate change.
The debate is if she's pro fracking enough. Do you believe she's pro fracking? Because we need to know you're pro fracking. Like that's where the
Obama bragged that he had more oil exports than George W. and Biden has had more oil permits and fracking permits than Trump.
And Biden bragged about it too at the State of the Union.
Yep.
He shut down those Republicans, and that was the news story. Is he was got in their face about we produce more oil than ever before.
So what difference does it make if you believe? It's like COVID. No, we believe COVID exists. Just get it. No, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
This is more from Ed Markey. That's why Elizabeth Warren and I are so passionately campaigning for her and supporting her. But let's just keep going on to other people. The Senate's most liberal Democrats say they aren't worried about backing Harris or about Harris backing away from her previous support for Medicare for All or a fracking ban because they believe she'll push hard to rein in insurance and pharmaceutical companies or to crack down on fossil fuel consumption. Let me get to the last one, and then I've got to say something about this. Asked her in an interview on NBC's Meet the Press whether Harris had abandoned her progressive ideals. Sanders said she is saying what she needs to say to beat Trump. No, I don't think she's abandoning her ideals. I think she's tried to be pragmatic in doing what she thinks is right in order to win the election. All of that is such a bag of shit to put on the American people.
Bag of shit.
We're supposed to vote for her because apparently to Sanders, she's just full of shit about being on the right. She's just saying it to win the election. And we just described that Biden said kind of the same thing to win his election. He was all climate guy on the left to win his election. And then he's out there immediately bragging about how they produce more oil. We're supposed to believe Kamala Harris, picked in 2017 because of her blind allegiance to party bullshit, is going to just break ranks. She's the progressive she's just lying to get elected.
Also, that, and I hear so many liberals say this, like they always have to tack right in the general to get, to get those voters. What voters? Like, you're fighting over the same people the Republicans are. You are leaving behind millions of voters. We know what the polls say. We know, and then they'll be like, well, those people don't show up to vote. Okay. Like, everything becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, we're going to make it harder for those people to vote. We're going to shut down their polling stations. We're going to, give them provisional ballots. And then that is like such propaganda. You do not need to tack right to win.
You don't. And you don't even need to, they're saying they need to win Pennsylvania, and you don't frack. Pennsylvanians don't support frack. They'd rather not have fracking. Pennsylvania citizens would rather not have fracking. So drop that argument, make the case to actually convince them a little bit to go left, instead of now you're normalizing. Now you're like, you're telling the world Pennsylvanians all support fracking. Like,
and they did the same. I mean, sorry, but like they did the same thing with COVID. Like, it is such, I mean, if this were happening in North Korea, it's like the propaganda level where they would say masks are the scarlet letter. And then the polls would come out, and even in red states, they would say, we want a mask if it's dangerous. Overwhelmingly popular, right? Then they just stopped polling people. So it's the same thing. Like, well, it's, Joe Manchin, Bernie won West Virginia in the primaries, right? And then they'll be like, well, that's the primary. It's different. And then this poll came out. I mean, it was many different ones saying that people in Pennsylvania don't want dirty energy or fracking or coal.
They don't want to lose jobs. If you can guarantee jobs to replace those jobs that are clean energy,
and more people
all
are
be on board. All of them.
Clean energy jobs than by coal mining jobs there anyway. So it's all a fallacy. It's all dishonest.
There aren't even that many fracking jobs. So what you got with fracking is pollution for the people that live near it. So you got more people against it because of the damage and pollution.
Just for a good moment, we just want to thank Justin, YouTube member. I think you were already a member, but it just popped up. So thank you. RJ, thank you. Wow, that's good. Since 80. Good for you. Clear conscience.
Wow, I'm impressed by that. I voted for Obama. That was it. That was the end for me.
No, I have a guilty conscience because, like an asshole, I voted for Hillary in 2016 because I could not imagine Trump. And I know, horrible. I mean, that was my last one, but oh my God. Kimmy, thank you. You guys, thank you so much.
Cheers.
This is like, cheers to you guys. Cora, thank you. Keeps me sane too. Thank you. It really is nice. I'm kind of always desperate for my community, and you guys are it. So thank you.
Vodka shots.
Daniel, thank you. Cheers to you guys.
Daniel.
Really amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. So back to the endorsement front. We're getting all these endorsements now. That's the latest thing, right?
Okay. Yeah. Let's see.
This one hurt. Yeah. I don't know. This wasn't actually an endorsement, but take it for what it is.
But she does this every time. She does this every time, which is dangerous because she's a radical, supposedly.
She's a radical. Abolish the true, abolish the police. And that's the biggest
liberation issue. And every time when it comes down to it, it's always voting lesser evil. I mean, Noam Chomsky does the same thing. Electing Harris will open space for more radical struggles. I mean, if that happens, that would be awesome. It would be completely ahistorical because that's never what happens. What always happens is the left goes back to sleep and is shut down. Why do you want to? Hey, he just got into office. You have to give him some time. Hey, it's the midterms.
Yeah.
You got, it's like always suppressing any vote. So all the people who say, we'll push her left once she's elected, if you try to do that when she's elected, they will come at you for tearing down. She's just got in.
Look,
give her a chance.
Yeah, exactly. Now's not the time. We've heard that every election cycle forever, because in 2 years, in a year, it'll be midterms. So don't bring Democrats down by criticizing her.
Yeah.
You know,
do you want
you
to
got
help
to
Trump?
uplift Democrats.
You got to help JD Vance,
right? So that's the routine. But I'm just really disgusted by all these people telling you, these progressives like Angela and like Bernie and Ed Markey and AOC. This
AOC
blank,
Pelosi.
yeah, this idea that what they're telling us, they're much more left of that. You'll be able to push them left because they don't really believe what they're saying now. You know, like this insider tips kind of thing. Like, we know her. She's really progressive. She's just kind of lying to win the election. Like, there's no evidence of that whatsoever. There's not a drop of it. Not a drop. She lied to say she supported Medicare for all, and she didn't. Immediately went off on that. She said we should have all these checks for COVID, and then became fucking vice president and didn't do anything to support people with COVID anymore. I mean, what you've seen from her is she'll say anything to get elected, but like, then she goes right. She does not go left. She goes right because the pressure from the party and why they love her is to go right. And she's a blank slate that will go right. And this saying nothing thing that she does when she does interviews and her whole policy is so vague that their strategic goal is to get people to put on them what their own perception is. You want to see in her what you believe, because her policy is so vague that it allows you to do that. So that's why it's super important for these progressive people to shut the fuck up about, like, oh, we really think she's progressive behind the scenes. No, don't do that. Get it out in the public. Push her.
It's a lie, but it is
now.
So typical of liberals. I mean, you know, you had Robert De Niro there, like, but the policy is actually what he's doing at the border. What Biden says he wants to do at the border is even worse than what Trump did. And then he's like, well, but I know in his heart, he's just feeling forced to do it. I mean, it's like, there is so much invested for liberal voters to feel better about themselves by showing up once every 4 years and casting a vote for the Democratic Party that they will justify anything. It is like Stockholm syndrome, cognitive dissonance on speed.
And immediately upon winning the election, Kamala Harris is going to be a Republican, right? She's going to be what we think of as a Republican.
She's being a Republican right now.
Yeah, right. But she's not going to go any more left. But she's going to use the fact that she won as a center-right person to stay center-right so that she can win in the next election. And the campaign
100%.
season is going to start 2 years into her election. Yep. So she's not going to suddenly tack left and go, Medicare for all. You guys get Medicare for all. You get a car. You get an apartment. You get food. You get water. You get to live like a normal human being. You get COVID protections. We were just lying about all that. No, because if she says or does anything like that, she won't win the next time, and she won't have the party support either.
I mean, honestly, and you know, I saw. Sorry, we just put this up. Kristen's comment. Not only will she not win, she might not live to see another day. Like, I mean, honestly, I do think that a lot of people live with that fear. I don't know what the truth of all of it is, but there's definitely evidence to show they're not going to let that person win.
Unaliving Bernie and kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know, but like, sorry, because you know, I'm always scared that I'm going to get kicked off, and then if that happens, I sometimes am no longer able to see the super chat. So we just want to thank Lynn. Thank you so much, super chat. Thank you, Willie Bragg Show. On duty November, I urge people to vote for Jill Stein or Cornel West. Here. We also have Claudia Dela Cruz. We have Joe Kishore. By the way, just quick announcement: Joe Kishore and Jerry White will be on the show on Sunday.
SEP party.
SEP coming on Sunday for a little bit. Very excited to have
second
them.
Visit.
That's right.
I love everything the SEP represents, and like policy. Dropping everything else and just picking a candidate. I'm picking them all day.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there now. And I look, they're building something too. So
they're building something too. And they're at every single worker protest, every single strike, every single factory. Like they are 100% in solidarity with the working class. It is exciting to see. And because that is, I think we all think, truly our only hope for salvation. So yeah, very excited to have them back on. Okay. Sorry, that was an interruption just to go back. Let's go back. Who else do we have?
This one really hurt the soul. This hurt the soul so hard.
Come on. Also, it is vaguely racist. Like, I mean, the whole coconut thing, like there was a woman in the UK protesting, and she actually, I think, is of Indian heritage, the woman who was protesting, and she was calling out leaders, like Rishi Sunak and Suella Braverman and a few other horrifying leaders in the UK who are of her same background with something with the coconuts, like making fun of them, but whatever. And she was like, she is in heavy litigation right now. We were scared even with our one thing, even though we were just like quoting the coconut pilled sort of, explosion on Twitter several weeks ago to put coconut pilled there. Cause it felt like, could this be, cause it kind of is vaguely racist, like kind of weird, but anyway, but here it is. It's all justified in the name of getting your favorite capitalist in the highest office in the world.
I've had so much respect for those guys, but I guess you just have to, I don't know. There's different groups of people. There's people that are just, they want the left if you can get it, but we can't get it. So, they just don't know the best way forward, or they don't know. I don't know.
I think they're just so scared of Trump. I mean, honestly,
I don't think they're corporate owned or captured by the Democratic Party, or most people who are like that are not, is my opinion. Like don't call them sellouts because they do this. It's just a bad strategy. I think it's like the Angela Davis. I'm not going to say Angela Davis is a corporate stooge for Democrats. She really thinks, I think, that this is the best way forward. I mean, I think they really.
I do. I think enough people. And again, this is the Clintons are the absolute bane of what. Not that the Democratic Party was ever amazing, but they have destroyed it. And they, whether it was in conjunction with the Koch brothers and the New Democrats or the Democratic Leadership Council, that Clinton, the attack right to get those Romney Republicans, or Hillary and Bill promoting Trump. But that has been, Trump is the best thing that has happened to the Democratic Party. They don't even have to run on anything. They can actually run to the right of him on some issues. Not that I think, I don't think he's a peace candidate at all, but they keep going further to the right. The border bill, the, deportations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing to me is that we just don't, at least the value of the Democrats for people left of Democrats was that they would pretend to be left to get that out into the public sphere.
Right.
Of the dialogue and discourse, right. Do this talk about the primaries, and a lot of people like Bernie, so you got to pretend left. But they figured out the perfect strategy to bypass that entirely and just say, hey, we're just a little bit left of that guy. So they're not even pretending. So that's why you can't just accept that she might be behind the scenes more left, because there's no evidence with all the pressure on someone as a president that she's going to somehow usurp her party and all the influence around her, especially with Kamala, who's the knocks on her are that she doesn't do her own work, that she lets the staff decide things. And that's why they picked her largely for policy. She's not going to come up with her own master plan for Medicare for all or something.
No. Oh my God. Anybody who really believes you're going to push her left after she gets in is, I'm sorry, you're a fucking moron. It's dangerous to be that ill-informed. Like I don't have, like, I'm so tired of handing information and documents and receipts and news journals to people on a silver platter, doing all, like, I sometimes will spend hours putting together something to one of my idiot Facebook friends. And then they're like, I don't know about all that. Okay, let's just agree to disagree. Like, nothing persuades them.
Or they're like, wow, I didn't know that. And then, you get to the election, like, Trump is a scary guy. He scared me. I'm voting Democrat every time. Like, that's what I run into all the time.
It's just such a waste of my energy. They're time vampires, energy vampires. All right, let's see some of the other people. Well, okay, so because there was, do you want to
There's a
show,
good non-endorsement. Should we go to the non-endorsement? I appreciated this one.
I did too. Yeah.
Teamsters president Sean O'Brien. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm so happy. I'm going to drink.
I'm using my voice and suppressing a white woman. That's going to get the police called on me.
That's right.
On why he wouldn't endorse in 2024. And this is historic. They haven't not endorsed in like 30 years.
Yeah.
And you're looking at the candidate. This is coming off of Biden, Mr. Union guy, to not get the endorsement for the VP is kind of wild. Neither candidate was able to make serious commitments to our union. There you go.
That is huge. And in the small print, I love that you're going to do the big writing, and now I have to put on my friggin' readers.
I got readers.
We sought commitments from both Trump and Harris not to interfere in critical union campaigns or core Teamster industries, and to honor our members' right to strike, but we're unable to secure those pledges. Good for him. And, I will say, I know when we first saw that he was going to speak at the Republican convention, I was actually pleased about it, because I felt like, unless he was like, hey, go Trump, Trump is awesome. You got to speak, like, you want Trump to fight for you also, and not be like, oh, just all the union people are just on the left, whatever. Sorry, I'm really big into this today. I don't know why. It's because I can't come up with words. This is doing a lot of work for me today.
Heavy lifting.
Yeah. And apart from saying like, go Trump, you're a strong dude, because he had just, had an assassination attempt on him.
Yeah, I didn't like that part, but you can understand it. He's got to make an appeal to his audience to get on their side a little bit, and then
he said words that they probably hadn't heard before. I don't like that he shut down the strike before. Like, I did not like the way he handled that whole strike situation a year ago, and allowing Biden basically to crush it. But this is, to me, this is great. Like, that's a big deal. And Sean Fain should follow in his footsteps, especially because a lot of rank and file people are furious, and they do not want to support somebody who's supporting a genocide. So
you want unions to be beyond the parties.
Yeah.
They should be adversarial to anybody, because they're negotiating for their employees, which is the working class. So you can't just say, we support the working class party, the Democrats, and that mean anything, because then they're not going to support you. You got to be out there. And even if you do endorse, this is the lesson that Bernie taught everybody 10 years ago or whatever. Hold your endorsement. Don't endorse. Like, if you're going to do it on the last day. Make them earn it. Get the most leverage you can out of an endorsement.
I agree. That would have been pretty cool, though.
Oh, that would be.
That would have been cool.
That would be.
But I'll take. Look at me. I'll take a small step. Willie Bragg, thank you. Jeez Louise, you're speaking my mind about Bill and Hillary Clinton, the Democratic Leadership Council, Koch brothers that Reaganized the Democrats.
Oh.
100%.
Reaganized the shit out of them. They're like bragging about all the Reagan. Didn't we pull Reagan staffers? This is not something to brag about. 17 former staffers endorsed Kamala and went so far as to say Ronald Reagan would have supported her.
Yeah, wow. He would have. Good for you. Listen, 15 years ago, Obama bragged that in the 80s, he would have been considered a Reagan Republican. It's a good thing.
Yeah. And you got Bill O'Reilly out there going, Obama's not bad. He's saying that now. This is the convergence of the worst people in the world with the Democrats now.
Yeah. It's not even a duopoly. We're just right back to the whole George Carlin. It's just one big party.
We need a shoeopoly where we all take our shoes off and throw them at every Republican, every politician we ever see gets a shoe.
Gets a shoe. You get the shoe. I don't know. We're getting late, but do we want to show the Mehdi Hassan stuff, the Hillary stuff, the
let's get a little Mehdi in there, because I appreciate asking anyone any tough questions. That's great. It's just the framing of it all to attack Stein and not anybody else. Like, it's your only opportunity to go after somebody, and you go after her. So
gross.
Let's show it.
Are you
pushing the button apparently.
Every vote that's cast for Kamala Harris or for Donald Trump is an endorsement of genocide. It is an affirmation of genocide.
Lay out for me the steps whereby I go into a voting booth, vote green, and the genocide stops. I don't see that happening.
Clearly, we are creating a very organized coalition that is here for the long haul.
That's right. They were Democrats that were sending cops to campuses to beat up kids on my campus, okay? Coming in riot gear to remove people from encampments.
Yeah. When people were dying en masse from COVID, when he was praising Nazis, doing domestic terrorism, as Butch says, did you ever at any point say, maybe I got that one wrong?
Oh, no.
You said in November 2015, as Assad and Putin were massacring Syrians in their tens of thousands, quote, the US should be working with Syria, Russia, and Iran to restore all of Syria to control by the government. That's the Assad government.
That was an unapproved statement, which was taken down the moment it was...
You seem to have a lot of things online that you don't approve. Would you tell your supporters at home, vote green everywhere, but in those 3 swing states, vote against a domestic terrorist?
I would say...
Which domestic terrorist?
I mean... It is really amazing. And then he pushes her later and is like, you called is Putin a war criminal? And she's like, yes, I said that his invasion of Ukraine was illegal. Is he a war criminal? She's like, he is the leader of Russia. How can I if I become president, how do I negotiate with him if I'm just lobbing names? Well, you called Netanyahu a war criminal. And as she starts to explain why that's different, because the whole country is a war criminal. Like, that whole country is a war crime. It's a genocidal apartheid state. That is different from a leader of a country where there are, there are so many different parts of what the US has contributed to threatening them with our buildup of NATO and, arms around their border. Like, there are so many other things happening with the Ukraine-Russia situation. And Mehdi was just in his, like, debate me, bro, kind of, I gotcha. And then, Owen Jones, who helped, kneecap Jeremy Corbyn in the UK, quote tweeted Mehdi's interview. I was like, this is a train wreck for Jill Stein. Everybody comes piling on her. They don't do any of this with Kamala or Joe Biden or any of the 400 and that was the other thing, the 538 people in Congress. Yeah.
Unfortunately, they don't get access to them, right?
Right.
Because I don't want to defend Mehdi, but the only thing I will say about him is he's hit and miss. He's good on some stuff, but he's one of those guys at the end of the day comes back to the party.
That makes it even more dangerous.
But yeah, I agree.
Like
I agree.
Davis, right?
But like, on one level, look, it's good when you get these questions that are hard when you overcome them.
Right.
But on the other hand, Mehdi has the power to release 2-3 clips, and that's all people see. Right. Yeah. So they don't see her full answer. The full interviews behind a paywall. So what happens is what he puts out to be an attention-grabbing clip becomes the whole thing to everybody in the world. And he put this out there as a Jill Stein looks bad stuff.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, honestly, it's just the whole Bernie playbook.
And I mean, our next subject is COVID. So maybe we'll pivot a little bit with this. I'm a professional journalist.
Yeah.
But that part about what he did with COVID, like, the answer is that doesn't scare me, because what did Biden do with COVID? He ended the little protection that was forced upon Trump by us, the public.
Yep.
He ended all of that.
100%.
And we'll get to COVID, but like that part I would be in his face about. And Mehdi was one of the few people who followed COVID and actually understand some of this stuff, but he still puts it out there like COVID's over now. Like, what are you doing, Mehdi? You have your own. He has his own network now. Like, and
he has it because he spoke out. Like, you would think should embrace the fact that he was fired by MSNBC, but no. I don't want to leave 2024 though. Yeah, go ahead.
But I just want to say, is the new funding for his new network not as independent as we think? Because the natural inclination for us is to think, well, that means he's going to go more naturally left because he's not tied to the establishment anymore. But what if it's $100 million of funding from pro-Israel sentiments, or, you know, it isn't, but somebody corporate, what if there's some strings, you know?
Yeah.
So,
the other people who like this guy is such a, there's Waleed
Bernie guy.
Yeah, but he's also, you know, he's what turned abandoned Biden into uncommitted, you know. Jill Stein's Green Party is running a candidate against Rashida Tlaib in November. Well, like, they're a different party. They're not an arm of the Democratic Party. This isn't the same as primarying somebody in your own party, right? Like, that's not so outlandish. You know, I love Rashida Tlaib, but of course the Green Party needs to run wherever they can run. Like, that's the whole point of being an oppositional party.
And who cares if they run someone against her and she loses? They're not running from the right, so you're getting a more progressive person anyway, and you're not going to beat her anyway. So this whole thing is just—it's
just a smear job.
It's a smear. It really is.
Here's one of the favorites. Oh, sorry, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, yeah.
Well, no, let's bring up Liz, because she's one of the biggest pieces of shit.
She is
campaign manager.
Wow, she's one of the absolute worst. Nevada Green Party is still fighting to get Jill Stein on the state's 2024 ballot. Yeah. Like, what? Like, she says that like that's a knock against the Green Party and not against the Democratic Party for fighting over every single signature and doing all this lawfare on them. Reportedly, they're being represented by Jay Sekulow, best known for his longtime role as one of Trump's personal attorneys. Yeah, of course, you know.
Well, so the story behind that, and Jason, her campaign manager, explained it. They reached out. This stuff is so expensive to fight all these elections everywhere. So they were offered free legal counsel by I don't know, it's a group that represents, you know, liberty. I don't know, whatever. It's like the ACLU kind of thing, but kind of like that. And one of their lawyers is a Republican guy. They're going to take anyone defending them. If the Republicans want them on the ballot, and they'll get them on the ballot. If you're them, seeing the animosity of both parties and the Democrats specifically, why would you not take free legal counsel when it costs you $10 million that you could be putting into ads?
And meanwhile, this is a party that spent tens of millions of dollars boosting MAGA Republicans in primaries, which
against progressives.
Against progressives.
Yeah.
Which all it did was like normalize the worst fascists in the world.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, exactly. Then if you don't run down ballot candidates, they say, well, all they do is pop up every 4 years and run for president. And yes, also, sorry, the Liz Smith specialty getting powerful men off. No, wait, that's Anita Dunn. I mean, yes, I think Liz Smith did some of that, but I think that's a more of a Anita Dunn thing, but I have to look it up. You might be totally right, Saul. Sure. Definitely. But remember, Liz Smith was the one who posted from her sorry. Whoo, lots of shots and wine. Her alt account where she's like a Black Nigerian man. Do you remember that?
God, yeah.
Oh my God. Mess.
She's a sleazeball.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Is there any other 2024 thing? I mean, there is, but what? Do you want to do any of this? Just moving on.
I mean, we're pro-terrorism. Democrats are pro-terrorism. they're backing the bombing of. They're like, yeah, they took out some bad people, so it's okay to just.
This is my congressman, by the way.
Oh, is he LA's rep? Yeah.
Yeah, but even
Democrat.
like he's my specific, county. Yeah.
Nice.
I did reply. I mostly got a lot of, support, and then there are all the morons who.
Yeah.
But that's, that is disgusting because we know that civilians died. It was not strategic. Anybody can have a pager. It was happening in fruit markets and open air places. Children were killed, blinded. Yeah. And sorry, but like when you start targeting ambassadors, you're destroying any chance of peace anywhere. Like we are all now having to wonder what we're saying that's going to make us count as terrorists in the eyes of the people who have the power to blow up our iPhones. I mean,
and we're all going to end up like hanging onto our phone. Like, no, my phone's 5 years old, so I'm not going to upgrade it because it's not going to blow up on me.
I just was thinking that because I just got a thing for an upgrade and I sent in for it yesterday. And now
where's
I'm
it from? Where's it from? Who made it? Who packaged it?
I mean,
I did want to go, since we were talking about endorsements. This one was a shocker, and this is the opposite. Like, you got to give it to Sean Fain and the Teamsters for breaking with tradition and not endorsing Biden.
Sean,
and meanwhile,
not
Sean Fain, sorry.
Meanwhile,
the opposite, the Scientific American endorsed Kamala, and they haven't done that. They don't endorse. And meanwhile,
I think they've done it one other time ever, and I don't even know who it was for. Yeah,
this is a publication constantly pointing out climate change, bomb stuff, COVID stuff.
They're endorsing now.
And they're
endorsing
fracking. I mean,
that's the belief science. I mean, honestly, Biden did more. The Biden regime has done more to kill the idea of believing science or public health than Trump ever could have hoped for. We should just take a really quick look because in spite of all, two things. One is, this is kind of crazy. Latest New York Times Siena poll has Harris trailing Trump among working class non-college voters by 17 points.
Yeah.
Which is the same deficit that Biden had right before he dropped out. But in 2020, his deficit with these voters was 4 points. So, I mean, there is a realignment on some level, but not
there's a lot
switch.
There's a lot of blissful delusion still on the left that this thing is like, people on the left think this is over. They're like, the dog and cats thing sunk Trump.
Yeah.
And maybe you're right. But there's a long time to go. And the odds pickers are still leaning Trump. This is Nate Silver. Yeah. He's given Trump almost 60% chance of winning.
Right.
So, it's a coin flip, but like sleeping on this like it's over just because Trump is running a bad campaign.
Like a horrible campaign. If he wakes up for a second, it won't even be close. This is the swing states right now. It's pretty much even in the swing states. But remember, she's not even at Hillary Clinton's numbers. The one thing that some people who are more optimistic on her point out is that her favorables are higher than Hillary's were. But
yeah, look, she has so much in common with Hillary as far as,
oh my gosh, yeah,
being unpopular when questioned, because that's when all the stuff comes out that makes people not like you, because they see her being wishy-washy, they see some of her real opinions, they see your natural disdain for certain groups of people come out. And the longer this is really a toss-up or leaning Trump, the more we're going to see some more of her. And she's had 2 interviews now on her own, and they've gone poorly. I don't see her winning people back, because you can't undo when you think someone's a piece of shit or doesn't like your group, or so I just don't know. I mean, I think there's a lot of room for Trump to move up, and she could move up too, but Trump has a lot more room to improve his numbers, where she has a little room to work around the margins.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going back and reading some of the comments. And yes, the Scientific American endorsement is 100% about regulatory capture, just as everything that happened with COVID is happening with climate, is happening with genocide. It's just all sort of the same thing. You know, I actually think Trump's approval rating, or, you know, vote share polling, whatever, I think he's probably topped out where he's going to top out. But I think she also has. And I think everybody knows what a disgusting asshole Trump is. And they either are fine with it or they're never going to vote for him. There are people who are just getting to know Kamala now. And there was the whole Joy campaign. It was all manufactured. It was all like this fun party at the DNC convention with Oprah and all the billionaires and whatever. Right. And if they can continue to hide her, it might work. But as when people get to know her, they hate her.
Exactly. And that's my point. And so the reason all that joy had peaked before the convention, right? She had her convention. She got no bump from her convention. None. Didn't change the numbers at all. So what you've got with Trump is a potential to appeal to the people on the left a little bit. And that's what he's doing. And that's why policy independents are more concerned with policy than tone, because tone from Trump, it doesn't matter. It's baked in. Right. It's already, we know who he is.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter, but they don't know Kamala, like you said. So it's policy from Kamala, and Kamala is running on a blank slate policy. And the policy we get is the stuff on the right. And frankly, the people in the middle aren't really appealed by policy on the right. They want social programs. They buy into some stuff about taxes and things like that, but they want something that materially affects their lives. And they're not getting that from Kamala at all. And Trump could lie and say he's going to do some stuff, and that might be enough.
Yeah. And the truth is, as gross as he is, and the tax cut for the rich were kind of all he did, although we haven't, canceled those, and the capital gains tax that Biden wanted to implement, that he said, whatever, but she won't even promise that level. She's already come down from it, even now, like negotiating herself out of anything that might be good for people. But, gas prices were lower. Inflation was lower. Groceries were lower under Trump. So, if people are just looking at, was I better under Trump?
Yeah. Well, post the Democratic nomination hoopla. Yeah. Trump got a bump. Well, no, I'm sorry. The debate that was so terrible for Trump, he got a bump from people who thought the economy. They thought after that debate, he was better on the economy, which is the number one issue people are voting on, is the economy. Yeah. And so that terrible debate gave him a bump on the biggest issue people are voting on.
Crushed it.
Just saying.
Crushed it. All right.
Spin it.
I'm going to spin it.
You're going to hit like
baby.
three shots somehow.
Look at that. A little timeline cleanse, because I can't handle another shot. I'm glad we're getting.
We need a musical break here. So let's go.
The Democrats won't save you if you're drowning. They won't help you if you are in pain. They'll ask you for your vote. They'll tell you they are broke. Then send a lot of money to Ukraine.
And also Israel.
Republicans will obviously kill you, but at least you know where they are at. They'll shoot you in the head, make sure that you are dead. The Democrats will shoot you in the back,
and also in the balls.
But this is the best democracy we've ever had anywhere. If you're a billionaire, boys, if you're a billionaire. Oh shit, oh dear, here comes another election year. I'd rather have a stick in both my eyes This is the best democracy we've ever had anywhere. If you're a billionaire, boys, if you're a billionaire, this is the best democracy we've ever had anywhere. If you're a billionaire, boys, if you're a billionaire.
Let's see. Wait.
Carsey
Blanton. Yeah. There we go.
Carsey Blanton. Oh, look, there's Devin even had it. Yep. Miranda, we don't want to push you in any which direction, but if you want to, we are here.
We're your drinking support group. Lila, we need to reframe that.
I'm just saying. Well, I don't know if that's like, I didn't know if that was just, I don't, I mean, not if you're recovering, I would never ever do that. I didn't know if that was a thing. I was what it was. Okay. I'm going to stop talking.
Not drinking is great.
We are moving on to COVID. We didn't get to COVID on Sunday. Why didn't we get to COVID? What were we doing?
Well, they shut us down, remember? And we were like, we had a lot of time delays because the man silenced us.
Always. All right, guys. Pretty excellent. I think this is the 4th or 5th week. We're over 1,000 deaths a week. And this is with limited data. I think like 30 states.
Well, here, 33% of hospitals are submitting COVID data.
A third.
1/3. This is like right out the gates. They were like, tracking, testing, treatment, blah, blah, blah. We're not tracking. We're not testing. And we're not even treating. I mean, we'll show some of that, but like...
No, it's horrible. I went to go get my Novavax and I called the night before to CVS. Yes, we have it. Are you sure that we have it? Yes. Get there. Have to wait in line because you can't make an appointment, because if you do the appointment online, it only gives you the option of checking off a Moderna box. That's all. And I just had this vision that like, if I do that and I come, they'll be like, sorry, you checked off the, so that's why I called and they said, don't worry about it. We'll take care of you. We've got it. Get there. Oh, nope, we don't have it. And so I said, well, will you please call to the next closest CVS to see if they have it? They did. So then I had to drive there. But, that was like, it ended up being 2 hours. Well, a lot of people don't have 2 hours of their day to chase a vaccine that should be widely available.
And this is the one that should be on TV commercials saying, if you don't like the mRNA vaccine for whatever reason, here's a regular old vaccine. This is the old school one that we've done forever. Same style. Go get it.
Yep. Which,
and it's hard to get.
Targets the current strain
better,
has broader and longer efficacy. So yes, Novavax is the one. If you're going to get it, is what you should get.
I mean, that's what I would recommend if you can. But back to the treatment part, another study came out. This is another example of what we have the tools look like. Small study published by the CDC found that 4 out of 5 high-risk patients, not just patients, were not offered an antiviral by their doctors. Black and Latino, no surprise, patients were far less likely to receive the drug. This is why it's an intersectional issue. It's healthcare, it's poverty, it's socioeconomic status, it's race, it's workers, it's everything. And the left is an absolute piece of shit for dropping this.
Disgusting. It's so disgusting. And, the only information that I've gotten about that you're supposed to do a booster the way those people who did mRNA at the beginning, we got the first one and then you were supposed to get the second one. I mean, at that point, I don't know if it was 2 weeks or 4 weeks, it kept changing, but apparently you're supposed to do the same with Novavax. You need that booster 8 weeks later if you're getting your very first course of Novavax. But I've only found that from epidemiologists online. And then because it's not part of the FDA and CDC, FDA, they say if you are immunocompromised, you should get it. You should get the booster 8 weeks later, which is the same shot, but 8 weeks later.
Right.
But like, that's not widely available. Even the pharmacist who was giving me my shot, she's like, so can I just ask, why did you want Novavax instead of Moderna?
She would have gotten a lecture. I mean, a good one. I mean, at least she
I
asked,
did. I told
like,
her all this stuff,
yeah.
but I was like, what the fuck? You're a professional, you're a healthcare professional, and you don't know this. It's not her fault. They're doing it on purpose.
No, of all the people, I mean, look, obviously you see doctors and they're not masked, and it's baffling. But like the people at the local pharmacists that are literally in 1 second handing a treatment to COVID to a sick person who's got COVID right in fucking front of them, and then they go to administering the vaccine.
No mask. No masks.
That's what I'm going. Not masking. Like, they get COVID every 3-4 months, probably.
Just a cold.
But there's
It's
no
allergies.
information, and this there's no intellectual curiosity because our government has so downplayed and minimized all this that they think what their own beliefs are probably reinforced every time they don't die from COVID. Like, oh, well, I didn't die. It's like the flu. And so they're just like, this is just the way.
It's just the way. Sorry, I was just looking because it's so frustrating that this is all happening. Kristen, I ended up going to 2 different places because they would not do it again. I got my first one at CVS and I did my second one at Costco. And if you say you're immunocompromised and the FDA says if you're immunocompromised, you're supposed to get a booster 8 weeks later, they cannot ask you what your issue is. And I think that is a white lie we should all tell. And by the way, anybody who's had COVID, which is most of this country, most of the world, on some level, you might be immunocompromised and not even know it. So you're not even lying. Yeah. But you can tell them I'm immunocompromised. And if you check and I even printed it out because I wanted my mom to get it last year and she wasn't able to, whatever. But like that it does say on, even if you go under Novavax, but also under the FDA, it will say if you're immunocompromised, you should get that booster 8 weeks later. But I don't know because I'm not a doctor, so I don't want to give you the wrong information. And your doctor probably won't know about it. My doctor didn't know about metformin when I asked for it, and I had to go through a whole thing. But I don't know if you've already had one a year ago. Then I don't know. So yeah, it is criminal, and they make fun of people doing their own research, but we've had to.
So this poll just came out. They polled people about which one of these represents you. Which of the following statements most applies to you? I expect that I'll get COVID at some point in the future, despite trying to stay as safe as possible. That's me, 20% right there. 31%, I expect I'll get COVID at some point in the future, so I've gone about my life as I normally could. That's a lot of people that I know right there in that category.
Yeah.
49%, I do not expect to get COVID at some point in the future.
Unbelievable.
Half the fucking country thinks we're so post-COVID, or they're so protected with the vaccine or whatever that they think they're not going to get COVID.
Yeah.
That's a complete abdication of duty from the CDC, the WHO, and our government entirely, that people are so massively misinformed about this.
And it was all a plan. I mean, this was the McKinsey-ification of our healthcare. Just get everybody back to work, the urgency of normal, get the economy up and running. Sorry, I'm going to just go back to this one more time because I saw a really good post from, is it Lazarus Long? We're mutuals. I know you are also. Yeah.
I know Lazarus.
That somebody was complaining that someone else lied and said, sorry, I don't know why I'm doing this, immunocompromised. And
like you're taking the vaccine from
yeah, although
you're
we're like lying about your status. It wasn't even that, because it was more like you don't get to claim our status. It's like co-opting protected group or something.
Like disabled.
Right.
Yeah,
and what Lazarus Long, who said that he he is immunocompromised, said, and then a lot of people in his same boat also supported his thesis, which is the more people who are vaccinated, protected, aren't spreading COVID, the better for all of us, including people, especially who are immunocompromised. And then also the second part was what we've just been talking about, which is once you've had COVID, even if it's not showing up yet, we don't know the long-term effects. We don't know how that's going to affect, it is, it's affecting all of our vascular systems and our organs. So you don't know. So,
but you shouldn't, you're not supposed to have to claim you're immunocompromised to get Novavax either, just for the record. So it's
to get the booster.
Gotcha.
To get it 8 weeks later, you have to say that, and we know that on, like you can't give blood if you've had COVID in the past, however many months. If you have long COVID, they won't give it to you. They won't take your blood. There's like, you're not supposed to try to get pregnant if you've had COVID in the last, there are deleterious effects that people who are, the bean counters and the money, they know that we're all on some level immunocompromised right now. So I guess that's
largely they know what's coming because they're following the money on this stuff. Dementia is coming in mass for our country. Early dementia for a lot of people. On the pediatric level, 71% of pediatric long COVID patients experience orthostatic intolerance, including POTS, which is what is disabling a lot of COVID. It's a lot of long COVID people have POTS, dizziness, fatigue, and body pain made worse by standing. So you're basically putting 71% of these kids with long COVID that's essentially bedridden, no energy.
Right.
What are you doing to their lives? And there's no path out of long COVID. We don't have a path out of it. It doesn't exist.
It doesn't now. I mean, it's interesting. In China, they're doing antivirals like AIDS drugs.
They're showing that helps a lot.
That it does, but we're not even talking about it here. They've been doing it for 2 years in China. But yeah, apparently a lot of it rests in your gut. So even Prevacid or Pepcid AC, whatever, I'm going to get the generic name is famotidine.
Sure.
It's like the active ingredient in one of those antacid sort of stronger tablets, but it is in your gut. So they think that will be helpful possibly, but they're not talking about preventing COVID in the US. So they're not talking about preventing long COVID. They're not even trying to deal with it. And people who have, especially with POTS and MEC, a lot of it looks like, oh, you're just being lazy. You're tired. It's in your head. There's a lot of that kind of response.
Like you're a disgruntled teenager in bed or something, But they did show another new study. Look, masks fucking work. If in school students wore N95s, you could reduce the risk by 96%. Cutting 96% of something that is giving 71% of kids who get long COVID shitty life, of unnecessary suffering, and no path out of it that we know of yet. I mean, maybe there'll be something, but we don't have it yet. So why are we not taking something? Why are we not instituting a policy that
clean the
96%?
Air? Yeah. Clean the fucking air and wear a mask. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, some places get it. I mean, Hollywood, the Emmys, they are requiring you to actually go through health protocols.
Makes me crazy. This actually makes me crazy. I mean, honestly, it could not be clearer. There are a lot of people who are COVID conscious who have Davos safe as part of their bios, right? Because we know that even though, the leaders of the free world continue to allow themselves to get infected repeatedly, they still have these stringent precautions. And that's what we should all be doing. That's why. So they get to do this behind the scenes and then show a crowd of people with no masks. So if you weren't looking carefully to see how the wealthiest people who value their lives, their livelihoods, their careers, their families, their children, their community of people who take care of them and are yes men to them, sycophants. But if they're doing all of that work to not get sick and then presenting to the outside world like we're back to normal, life is back to normal. Biden he beat COVID.
Adding on the positive note, I got 2 at the end here, unless you want to stay negative for a while.
No. I'm all about positivity. You know me.
This is not a positive and like there's some research, but this is a group that's come together. I've followed a couple of people behind this for a while, but they're going to put out a long COVID basically resource with 30 plus resource sheets that provide information about navigating long COVID. So if you've got long COVID or you know people who do, tap them into this resource because I trust the folks involved in it and they're doing good work.
I do too. It's amazing. And sorry, because I cannot just say something positive. It is despicable that we are having to go to citizen journalists, researchers, doctors who are putting this stuff out on the internet, having to do our own research because it puts us in the same category as the loony bins on the other side. There is no money to be made from the people who are actually telling people how to combat COVID and long COVID, as opposed to the people on the other side who are doing their own research and saying, I'm anti-big pharma and yada, yada, and don't mask and you're a sheep, even though I'm the only person ever anywhere who still says I need to sit outside and I only wear masks inside. But yeah, that's a good account to follow. Sorry.
The sheep thing kills me. Like, dude, the balls. I mean, not that I think everybody should do it, but like I wear a mask everywhere I fucking go in front of anybody. I don't give a fuck. But I'm the only one. Like,
me too.
So how am I remotely a sheep? Like,
and
shut
I
up.
See, it makes me sad that I get it because there's no end in sight. But like, my kids will wear a mask with me, but if it's someplace where they think they might run into friends or whatever, they'll be like, I'll just wait outside for you. Like, they just don't want to do it. They're embarrassed. It has been so stigmatized, not by MAGA right. I am in bougie limousine liberal
the left
Los Angeles. It's the libs. Yeah. Okay.
All right. That's it. I don't know.
Is that it? Is that the whole deal?
Well, there's one thing I don't know what to put into this, but the Wuhan lab, who is also responsible for the lab leak, they've got a nano vaccine that has universal protection. It's a nasal spray, and nasal sprays we know are in testing. They're actually shutting down the virus completely, so you're not spreading it in some instances. So, look, this could be a great thing, but because it comes from the Wuhan lab, good luck getting half of America to think it works. And I don't know. This is preliminary stuff.
No, I know. I saw that too. And there was even something at University of Texas that was also a nasal vaccine. But like, let's go. We're 5 years into it. Like, what's happening? Great. Go.
Yeah.
All right. This was a long show. Thank you to Sam Husseini. We were so thrilled to get to have him on. He really inject him into my veins when I see him, when they ever call on him in the State Department. He's so brilliant. But also you can, I think it's samhusseini.com is his actual website, but I'm not sure. I'm so sorry. I will put it in the description for YouTube. But votepack.org is the voting strategy that he was talking about. On Sunday, we will have Joseph Kishore and Jerry White on for part of the show. And any other notes from the front office?
Notes? No. Let's go out on something good.
Something good. Cheers to this guy. He writes a song a day. He's been doing it, Jonathan Mann, for a few years now, and it's always really smart political lefty stuff. And this is a tribute to Eichner, who was killed by the IDF while she was protesting illegal settlements in the West Bank. So
cheers to them and all of you and anyone who won't shut up about doing the right thing. Let's go.
Keep punching up, guys. Thanks.
Shot in the head by the IOF. They said you were throwing rocks. They lie like they breathe, like they cut down the trees, and that's why you never ever stopped. There's never an injustice that you didn't feel right down deep to your core. From North Dakota to right there in Beta, we'll never forget you, Aisha Noor. Oh, Aisha Noor, Aisha Noor, Aisha Noor, Aisha Noor. You never could ignore the inhumane. But Aisha Noor, Aisha Noor, Aisha Noor, Aisha Noor, killed standing up for a people in pain. Shot by a soldier in the army they claim, the most moral that ever was. You didn't think twice before taking your life, 'cause that's what a moral Israeli does. You had more heart in your little pinky than the whole IOF, straight down to its core. And we'll sing out your name as a call to stand up, to keep fighting injustice like Aisha Noor. Yeah, Aisha Noor, Aisha Noor, Aisha Noor, Aisha Noor. You never could ignore the inhumane. But Aisha Noor, Aisha Noor, Aisha Noor, Aisha Noor, killed standing up for a people in pain. Yeah, Aisha Noor, Aisha Noor, Aisha Noor, Aisha Noor. We will keep fighting for leaders possessed. Yeah, Aisha Noor, Aisha Noor, Aisha Noor, Aisha Noor. Your fight is over, now you can rest. Your fight is over, and now you can rest. Your fight is over, and now you can rest.